What's up, military millionaires, and welcome to episode, I can't even believe that I'm saying this, 200, where we're going to do something a little bit different. In this episode, I am going to do a solo. And for episode 100, I thought about doing a solo episode, and instead I did an episode with Alex. And that was great. We talked about a lot of stuff. And this episode, I really wanted to land Patrick Bet David. Because I thought he'd be a really fun guest, and I could not get through his gatekeeper. That's right, I failed in the networking world, so maybe episode 300. No, we're going to get him before then. But I thought it'd be fun to do a solo episode and to talk through the journey over the past 5 years with the podcast. And that's about how long it's been. It started, I think the first episode launched in December of 2018. And so, yeah, we're going to talk through the journey with the Military Millionaire podcast. So I guess really that's only been just over 4 years, 4.5-ish. And we're going to talk through that, and then we're going to answer. So what I decided to do is we're going to talk through kind of the journey real quick, and then my 5 biggest wins in real estate, my 5 biggest losses in real estate, 5 biggest lessons in both real estate and entrepreneurship, and the 5 most popular questions, most common questions in the Facebook group, which is 54,000 people. If you're not in there already, jump in there right now. But I do have an ask. I don't ask this enough. If you haven't done so already and you're listening to the show, could you please just head over to whatever your favorite platform is and just give us a review, an honest review. If you think we rate that 5 stars, I would love it. If not, forget I asked. No, go give us an honest review, and it would mean the world. And subscribe on whatever your favorite platform is. That's really the thing that helps this platform, this podcast, grow the most. And I'm really planning to go a lot harder in the paint on the podcast this year, thinking of even ramping up to 5 episodes a week. We'll talk more about that later. Plans for the future, and wanting to make this show so much more valuable for you, right? So make sure you're commenting down below on whatever your platform of choice is to let me know what would make this podcast the most valuable that it could possibly be for you, because that is ultimately my goal, right? Hey everybody, if you have not heard yet, we are doing a live in-person real estate event May 19th through the 21st in Tampa, Florida. I would love to see you there. We have 50 slots, 13 are already sold, and it's only open for War Room Mastermind members. So if you are a War Room member, make sure you head on over to the Circle community and grab your ticket right now, secure your spot. If you are not in the War Room Mastermind and you've been thinking about it, hit me up so I can get you that Mastermind application, and you can get enrolled and get a spot because they're selling quickly. We only announced the spots 2 days ago, and like I said, 13 of the 50 are already gone. So I'd love to have you there. We're going to have some really cool speakers. We're going to do some happy hour, some drinks, some hangouts, some networking, some restaurants, some really cool speakers, guest speakers, keynote, whatever. And we're going to do some property tours and some cold plunges and sauna action. So good times for all. Come hang out. See you in Tampa. So without further ado, if you haven't heard the story, we'll keep it kind of short. But the way that this show came to be is that in 2016, 2017, I happened to be living and stationed in Oahu, and I met Brandon Turner. I went to a random meetup. I didn't want to do the whole fangirl thing where you're like, oh my God, changed my life, ah! So I I told him, hey, your books are awesome. I bought a duplex, I house hacked. It was great, and I just wanted to say thank you. And then I spent the rest of the time networking with locals because I figured that was, I probably would never see Brandon again. Boy, was I wrong. And I wanted to meet the locals. And I met this guy named Doug Nordman, who, was ponytail, surfer dude, retired Navy, submarine guy. And we hit it off. And little did I know that Doug was a big-time military financial independence blogger who ran themilitaryguide.com, wrote the Military Guide book, has since written another book on parenting, and is kind of a legend in the military financial independence, retire early community, military fire community. And Doug happened to be why Brandon was on the island. They'd met at FinCon. And so I had to talk to Doug about going surfing that weekend. I go to go surf with Doug on Saturday, and I end up surfing with Doug and Brandon for like 4 hours. So I get to know Brandon a little better. And the next day I end up at lunch And I'm sitting there at lunch with Brandon, and I met David Green. And during that visit, I met Scott Trench. And I met David and Scott before that either of them had written a book. And this is kind of how I got into the Bigger Pockets community. This is why I know a lot of the Bigger Pockets members so well, because I met them before they were on the podcast or the CEO or had written books, right? And so you fast forward, I was trying to help Brandon find a house in Oahu. And so I was sending him deals every now and then. And he came back out for a couple months to give it another trial run before ultimately he ended up buying a house on Maui. And they came over to my house on Marine Corps Base, Hawaii for dinner one night. And I asked him a question about writing a book. How do you write a book? I want to write one about my time in Afghanistan because ultimately I had a journal and a mission log, and I wanted to combine the two. And I still do one of these days. And so he gave me some feedback, said I should write a blog or start a blog, so learn how to write. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't think I can write about Afghanistan all the time. Any other ideas for topics? He's like, well, why not just document your journey in real estate? There's a lot of military real estate investors. Like, oh, that's a good idea. And that was kind of the idea. I actually came up with like 10 or 15 names that were all garbage. Nobody liked them. And my buddy Joel Carlton came up with the name Military Millionaire, but that website was taken. That guy still will not sell me the domain, that he has not done anything with it. And so we came up with From Military to Millionaire because, in 2015, I had a negative net worth and I had purchased this duplex to house hack, and I was trying to go from that enlisted military guy from military to millionaire, financial freedom, all the things, which is ultimately the journey. 2015, negative net worth. 2021, exited the military as a millionaire, financial freedom. That was the journey I wanted to achieve, and that was the journey I achieved. That was the vision. And that was the name of the website, from militarytomillionaire.com, which all of you are familiar with. And Joel came up with the name of the website, and I started blogging. And I tell you, I had no idea what any of that would turn into. So that conversation happened in January of 2018. And at the end of January, beginning of February, over that time frame, I watched this video from Pat Flynn on how to start a blog. And then I did, and I was just watching YouTube videos, how to start a blog, how to start a YouTube channel, how to start a Facebook group, how to start an Instagram. And those were the platforms I started with. The podcast, I don't believe, started until November, December, after I went to FinCon, which is a financial convention for bloggers and social media influencers. And I came back from that convention, and I was stoked about the idea of starting a podcast, so I did. And then eventually, a TikTok as well, and things just kind of grew from there. But at the time, it was the blog, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Instagram was the one that kind of took off first. And then I just started consistently trying to post content, learning about hashtags and content and colors and logos and just the basics. I had no idea. I had no idea about what I really wanted as an end goal. No idea that you could even monetize this stuff, let alone what that would look like. I just wanted a space to learn how to write, document what I was learning in real estate, share the journey, hope that maybe someone got something out of it, and really reinforce what I was learning. And then over time, people started to enjoy what I was talking about. And people started asking questions. Hey, I saw that you wrote about this. What do you think about this? And then I would get that question 2 or 3 times, and I would say, oh, let me write about that topic. Or let me learn about that a little bit, and I'll write about that and help this person out. Let me answer these guys' questions. And that became the basis for content. And as I answered more of the members' questions, more people came in. And they would ask questions, and I would answer more of their questions. And that just kind of snowballed. Until one day, and it was probably spring of 2020, the Facebook group went from like 100 new members a week to 100 new members a day. 200 new members a day. At one point, 300 new members a day. And it was crazy. And it went from like 7,000 members to like 40 in like a year. And I was like, oh my goodness. And, now, it's still growing. We grew 5% in the last 3 months, which is pretty decent growth. It's like almost 3,000 people in under 90 days, like 75, 80 days, I think was kind of the numbers there. Like 2,400 people in like 75 days. So that's kind of the beginnings. And then obviously you guys know where we're at right now. So the Facebook group has 54,000 people. TikTok is just at 100. Instagram's at 44. For some reason it hasn't moved in like a year. YouTube is just under 30,000. Podcast gets anywhere from 5 to 10,000 downloads a month. It's been kind of sporadic because I've had issues with editors, and so I missed some episodes, and the consistency was lacking in December, January, and that's completely on me. We were right at 10,000 a month, and then we dropped to like 5 because of that. Coming back up, right? So that's where the reviews and subscribes helps, as well as me consistently not missing anymore. So I've got a better editor now, building out a better team, rebuilt, rehired a lot of people over the last couple months, and actually planned this year is to build out a media team, like a media business to actually help other people build out the content side. So we're really going to scale that for me and then help other people. And so really looking to dive into all that. And so all of that's just going to continue to woo and just value, right? And so that's the thing. And that's the goal. So there we go. That brings us present day. And we'll talk a little bit about the real estate side and the business side and everything else. But long and short of it is this is the largest military real estate investing platform in the world that I know of, right? There's a couple other platforms out there that have, decent sized Facebook groups or whatever. But if you add all the communities in, by far, we are the biggest. And also, we're okay if you join and never buy anything. We're here with, 90% of what we talk about is free. Yes, there are, I have a mastermind group. You've probably heard of the War Room Real Estate Mastermind, or not even a real estate. We're adding a lot of more other stuff in there to not be just real estate specific, but War Room Mastermind group, which is phenomenal. We've got 205 people in it right now. They're just crushing it. I'm not the big fish in that group. So the War Room Mastermind is amazing, and the value that you get in there for the price is just crazy. All my mentors tell me to raise the price, but it is what it is. And so yes, we have that. We have some courses. There are things you can buy, the book, the planner, whatever. I'm not here to shove it all down your throats. The goal is for you to get a ton out of this community, right? We try to keep it spam and solicitation free. And, I tried my hardest to keep agents and lenders and insurance reps and Amazon automation peoples from the group just from spamming, and, try to keep it to like our recommended agents and recommended lenders who are moderators, and our list of people that we recommend and vet, and really try to make it valuable for you guys. And that's the goal, right? So without further ado, my 5 biggest wins in real estate since 2015, starting off with number 5, 1547 North Colgate Avenue, which was my first duplex. So I bought this thing with an FHA loan for $81,000. Actually, I think it might have been like $79,000, but whatever. Put like $3,000 down and another $1,000 into like flooring and stuff. And I went from paying $550 a month to rent a 2-bed, 1-bath apartment to, basically the same was my mortgage, but a tenant was paying $425. And so I was living for like $125 a month. And then when I moved out, that thing's cash flowed basically ever since. Currently it's rented for $1,325. And I have refinanced it once, but even still my mortgage is like $600 or $700. And so it still cash flows, like $200-300 a month, like clockwork. In fact, it might even be closer to $400 right now. And doing great. Actually, just getting pictures taken today to list it on the MLS for sale. I think I have a note on it right now for $115. I think it's $113 actually. We paid some down. I think I owe $113 on it, and I think we're gonna list for like $190-ish. So kind of excited about that. Kind of bittersweet to let that property go, but we're gonna take the cash from it, pay off whatever little bad debt we have left, and hold some capital just to see what the future holds. Number 4, my CCF membership, Create Cash Flow with Ryan Dossie. He hooked me up with a membership at a really good rate because he knew that if he provided a lot of value, I would talk about his platform, give him some exposure. And when people asked me about getting into wholesaling and his program, I would, if I had success with it, that I would recommend it. I think that played out well for him because I know at least 3 people, if not 4 or 5 or more, that have joined his program after reaching out to me and asking my thoughts. Either they were on the fence, or in one scenario, a private lender of mine who we had done 3 or 4 deals together was like, I'm thinking about doing this myself. And I pointed them in his direction, and they joined the program, right? So I actually lost a private lender to his program. And then just last week, somebody asked me, hey, I'm on the fence. What do you think? And I said yes. So that program helped me out a lot. And so getting into wholesaling and flipping was a win for a long time. It was ultimately not a business model that I was in love with, so I do not do it much anymore, but it was a really good skill set to learn. Number 3, all the partnership opportunities, right? So I'm in an RV park that I am not the operator in. I have 10% equity, and I didn't bring capital. I don't run ops, but I put all the partners together, brought my lender, brought my LLC people, and I do like the Google business page and some of the online ad generation and the SEO stuff, and that's pretty much it. That's a cool partnership. I have another partnership that's 50-50 with another member of the War Room and one of my best friends, and we bought that portfolio for $200,000. It was 4 houses, 5 units. We immediately sold one of the houses, so we own 3 houses, 4 units. We bought it for $200,000. After we sold the first house, it appraised for $280,000 for the other 4 houses, and so we each pulled $50,000 out. Still, cash flows or breaks even, and we're looking at maybe selling one of them or all of them, and who knows, right? So some decent opportunity there. That portfolio has done well. I've also co-sponsored a syndication with DeRosa Group, which is Matt Fairclough's group. Helped raise some capital there and been able to really see what a good syndication looks like, and that was awesome. And some other cool partnership opportunities, including deal that was with 2 apartments and a hotel. The apartments are crushing it. The hotel's been kind of a pain. You'll hear about that one in a minute. And, that one's been fun as well. So lots of partnership opportunities. Number 4, 829 South Douglas, my best single transaction ever so far. So this was my second deal. It was a 10-unit. I bought it we were under contract for $225,000, closed at $212,500 due to inspection stuff. We just dropped the purchase price. Because of the way we did that, the bank lent me 85% loan to value. Seller carried 10%, and I had to bring 5% down. I think off the HUD, I had to bring $10,990 down at the closing table, and the seller brought 10%, the bank brought 85%. Ultimately, we refinanced at one point. We closed at $212,500. I sold it for $340,000 4 years to the day later, and that deal crushed it. Cash flowed almost every year that we owned it, and I absolutely loved that deal. So that deal was phenomenal. A lot of other cool stuff that went into it, but we're just going to try to keep it at that. And number 1, the biggest win that I've had in real estate is people I've met along the way. Networking. I'm a connector, right? And that's kind of my superpower is networking. But the people that I have met along the journey of real estate, by far, that is the biggest win for me. And it has been, right? So definitely get out there, make some connections, network. If you're really looking to improve your network, shameless plug, again, the War Room, solid community. It's for service members and vets only. It's the one thing that we do that's actually only service members and vets. No mill spouses, I'm sorry, like nobody else. Just you have to have either a DD-214 or be currently active duty or reservist. My partner on the hotel, who's a military spouse, the group said no. Sorry. Like I asked them, like, hey, can this guy join? He's a millionaire. He's a military spouse. And they were like, nope, sorry. And so it is what it is. That's just, it creates that really tight bond. So if you're a service member or a veteran and you want to get in that community, this is the place for you. All right, so my 5 biggest losses since 2015. Some of you probably know what at least one of these is if you listen to my recent episode on Bigger Pockets Podcast, show 734. But number 5 is 830 North Prospect. Actually, my buddy Hugh, the guy I just mentioned, the mill spouse, Hugh owns a property right across the street from this one, and we're neighbors. So I did a full renovation on this, probably went a little overboard. In fact, I went $20,000 over budget, but bird out, was still able to pull all my capital out, and like $5,000 paid off my project manager, all my people, basically broke even. I think I pocketed like a tiny bit, and we were able to, it was going to cash flow a decent amount because I think we got like $1,200 in rent. I mean, we got a decent chunk of rent, better rent than I originally ran my numbers on this property. And so everything's great. I was stoked. It's next to Ozark Technical Community College or whatever, like OTC. Good little area. I was glad that we kept it. Everything's great. And like 2 weeks after this tenant moves in, call, hey, the sewer's backed up. like, oh shoot, we spent like, one of the reasons we went like 20 grand over is we spent like 12 grand on plumbing stuff that we hadn't anticipated. What's wrong? And long story short, without getting into all the details, the sewer line off the city shot, and it was split off way back when in a weird way. Part of it runs under a neighboring house, and we're basically sitting with our thumb up our butt waiting on an easement from the city to be approved, or an easement from the homeowner that they've signed to be approved by the city so that we can get the permit so that we can do the work with a plumber and dig it and do it and blah, 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 for like a 6-inch easement. No, it's more than that. But anyway, well, it's a 6-inch easement and then like the rest of the pipe. But that being said, it's gonna be like a $10,000 or $12,000 fix, is my quote. But it's been like 6 to 8 months now, and I'm paying $600-700 in holding costs like mortgage, insurance, taxes on this property, and missing out on $1,200 or $1,250, whatever it was that it was rented at during that time. So essentially costing me, $1,250 a month, just to do nothing while waiting on paying that expense. So definitely been a pain. Had I sold that house instead of doing the burr, I probably would have walked away with $15,000 or $20,000, and I wouldn't be stuck in this problem. So, but hindsight's 2020. No one would have seen this coming. So, I guess lesson learned. I could have snaked the sewer, but I mean, we had the plumbers out there, and they looked at everything and thought it was good. So, number 4, 944 West Central. I bought this fourplex. It was in pretty rough shape. I had 4 tenants in it, so I bought it for $90,000. It was currently rented for $2,000, and initial plan was to just boot everybody because they were all month to month and it was in pretty rough shape. Boot everybody, renovate it, burr out. And when we went in, I asked my property manager, like, hey, the tenants are all paying right now. See if they will just sign a 1-year lease, all of them, at the $500. Because in my head, I'm like, well, if I can get them all on 1-year leases, then that just gives me a whole year to enjoy the $2,000 a month gross rent at a $90,000 purchase. And then a year from now, one moves out, I'll renovate that one, and then I'll renovate the next one, and I'll just, I'll do it that way. I'll cash flow the renovation rather than doing it all up front and then burring out. And I should have just done it that way. That's what I normally do. And for some reason, I figured this would be easier than booting everybody because they were paying. Turns out 2 of the 4 were a mom and a daughter, and then the third was like a friend. And so one of those 2 decided to move out, and then the friend moved out. So 3 of them just poof, like 4 months in. So the first 3 months it was great. Cash flowed like a king. Best property cash flow ever. 3 of them moved out basically immediately, like all within like the same week. And then the last one basically was friends with a bunch of homeless people and let them all move in. And I had like 15 homeless people move in all at the same time, and got to play like Fight the City for like 6 weeks. And yeah, I got to play like, what kind of pills are those? Is that heroin? Is that crack? What are those needles? All the drugs, all the games. Ultimately sold it to some friends who turned it around real quick. They did what I should have done and burned it out. And I still think I came out like $5,000 in the positive on that property with cash flow and everything, because I sold it for the exact same price that I paid for it, and I did collect that cash flow that was really good for 4 months. So I think I still came out on top because it was off market on the sale, so I didn't pay agent commissions. And yeah, so not really a loss per se, but just mental headache, right? Number 3, the Majestic Steakhouse. Ultimately, we broke even, if not made a little bit of money on attorney fees and interest over the course of this 4-year lawsuit, but this lease option was a bear, and I learned so much from this deal, and this lawsuit was just a monstrosity. And I could go on and on and on and on about this, but honestly, just go listen to Bigger Pockets Podcast 734, because it's a full like hour-long episode where we dig into every possible detail about this and even talk about like the CaseNet, notes from the judge. So go dig into show 734 over at Bigger Pockets, where I really air everything about that specific deal, and it's crazy. But that deal's definitely up there. Number 2, the Ramsey flip. So my first long distance flip, and I lost 30 grand. Long story short, contractor was saying he was doing stuff and wasn't. And, I had my wife bring them checks, but she didn't really know what she was checking for, and I didn't really have her going in the property to check. Just had her meeting him somewhere public, and I should have just had my property manager going by to check on the renovation for me, or another local investor friend. I shouldn't have had my wife doing that while I was out of town. That was when my wife had moved back to Missouri prior to me getting out of the military for that little period of time. And yeah, I should have left that. Ultimately, I should have just left that up to my property manager or a friend who was in real estate. I shouldn't have put that stress on her. And it bit me because he was not doing what he said he was going to do. At one point, they said that tools and materials had been stolen off the job site of like 10 grand, but they didn't have receipts. And ultimately, if that's the case, it's not my problem, it's their problem. And especially if they don't have receipts to prove they ever bought it, and they have insurance for a reason. And so, we got with the district attorney for the state, like Secretary of State, to try to go after them and their license. And, I never really heard back on anything from them. So, and then number 1 currently is the Buffalo Lodge, our hotel. And this deal is not necessarily terrible, but it's been just a pain, right? So we didn't know anything about hotels. We didn't know anything about managing a hotel. We didn't know anything about owning a hotel. We didn't know anything about running hotel numbers, due diligence. I mean, you name it. And so we bought this thing in a package with 2 apartments and a single family off a single family mailer. And the numbers, based on what we were given, were awesome. And we just didn't account for not knowing how to manage, not knowing expenses, not realizing expenses were going to go up as much as they would as we increased occupancy. And just a whole lot of things. I mean, we turned over staff twice in the first 6 months. We should have just brought in a live-in manager right off the bat, like a husband-wife couple, which we have now, instead of bringing our whole team up there. Should have brought in professionals. We should have, done a better job underscoring the guy we bought it from's numbers. A lot of things. And so we've had to do some capital calls over the last year. Nothing like crazy, but it's a good thing that the 3 of us, the partners, do have some additional income, because if that was like all of our money that had gone into this thing, we either would have to, the 3 of us manage the hotel, because then it would be profitable for sure, live in it, deal with it ourselves. Or we would, it would really hurt. But, all's well that ends well. Currently, we are in the process of discussing, we're in the process of selling. We've got a couple different offers pending, and a couple counters out. And there are 2 really competitive ones right now. And if either of the counters or offers ends up coming through even close to where they're at, we will end up breaking even at the sale, and pretty much breaking even to recouping our entire capital call plus initial down payment, I believe, and then some. So I think we might still come out profitable on the hotel, if not break even, and tons of lessons learned. And ultimately, the 2 apartments that we bought in the portfolio have increased, I think, combined. Let's see. So they appraised for a combined. What they appraised for? Combined like 1.75 or 1.8 million last month. And the whole portfolio, including the single family and the hotel we bought for $950, appraised for $2.325 when we bought it last year. So, $500,000 at least increase in equity on the 2 apartments in the last year, and they're cash flowing $4,000 or $5,000 a month right now, and still have vacancies to fill. So we should be able to get those things up to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month in cash flow, and so ultimately we're going to come out on top, and we're going to recoup. We're going to be fine, but that's the one, right? A lot of lessons learned. So 5 biggest lessons in real estate and entrepreneurship since 2015. So be careful who you partner with, and be slow to give up control or ownership in anything. This is not just a lesson from me. I've seen this time and time again. People partner because they hear, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Sure, maybe sometimes, but you got to make sure it's the right person. Don't just jump into partnerships. Partnerships are like marriage. Sometimes they work and they work great, and sometimes they don't. It is what it is, and you don't know until you know. And so there are great partnerships and there are not so great partnerships. And unfortunately, I've been on fortunately and unfortunately, I've been on the end of both, right? So the receiving end of both. I've had employees that I thought were going to be partners who didn't turn out so hot. And I've had, some deals that have gone really well with partners. And so I would just, say, make sure that you identify those areas up front and you know what you're getting into and you set boundaries and make sure that if you're getting into a partnership in your operating agreement, you outline roles and responsibilities, but you also outline conflict resolution and, what's going to happen if things do go south and you have to disperse, because the conflict resolution and the dispersion and all of that stuff may not seem important right now, but it will be down the road. It's like a prenup. You want to have it outlined before you're angry, because you might love each other right now, but when the needles come out, the knives come out, the nails come out, the teeth come out, whatever you want to say, when people get angry, crap happens, shit happens. So fuck it, just get it out while you're happy, because you'll be way more amicable right now than you will when things go south, right? So hopefully that never happens, but do it now. So partnerships, sometimes they're amazing, sometimes they're not. Just prepare for the worst, because if they're meant to be a good partner, they will understand and they will want you to not have a terrible experience if things go south. It's a major red flag if you say, hey, let's outline in this operating agreement how to be civil if we have a falling out, and they fight you on it, right? Major red flag. Stick to your guns and trust but verify. So, put your foot down, hold your ground on your partnerships and on what you believe in your deals. Like that lease option deal, if you listen to 734, you'll hear like, hey, there were things that were supposed to happen that weren't. And I had to trust, kind of what was going on, but I had to verify that it was actually happening. But I had to really, stick to my guns on like, if this was actually supposed to happen, what's up? Why is this not happening? Had I just kind of taken it, who knows where we'd be right now. Number 3, never underestimate the lengths that people will go to gain access to your brand or network. Basically, just protect your reputation. Who you are and your reputation is extremely valuable. And, especially if you're like an online platform or brand, I would argue it might be like the most valuable thing. And you need to protect that at all costs. And unfortunately, people will, go after it. They'll try to get a hold of it or be a part of it or find a way to have an opportunity or whatever that somehow benefits them massively by utilizing, gaining access to your brand. And so you've got to really make sure that whatever opportunity you put in front of people really benefits you, and that if it doesn't benefit the people that you're putting it in front of, isn't going to come back and haunt your reputation. Number 2, always consult your attorney sooner than you think you need to. I cannot tell you, I think almost every time, if not every time, that I've called my attorney about a problem, he's told me that if I'd called him sooner, it would have saved me a lot of money. Like to the tune of like tens of thousands of dollars. So just know that you should call your attorney sooner than you think you need to. Even if you're like, I don't really know, like consult. Call your attorney, spend the money, consult. Or a lot of attorneys will do like a free consult, but call and do a 1-hour consultation, right? If you're like really up in the air. But calling your attorney and talking to them about a consultation, like doing a consultation or just asking them what they think about various things, will save you so much money. Having them, before you enter an agreement with somebody like a potential partner or an affiliate market, like a relationship with a business or an agreement for market, whatever, have them look at it. They will save you money. Before you sue someone, if you think you're being screwed, if you don't know what your rights are, if your partnership's about to split up, if you got an employee issue, if you're hiring someone, if you're doing a non-compete or an NDA, or whatever that thing is, your attorney should be your go-to, right? And you should consult with them sooner rather than later. As in almost every case, in fact, every case probably, it'll save you money, one way or another. And then trust your gut. Trust it. I struggle with this still, but the more you trust your gut, the more you lean into trusting your gut, the faster you'll make decisions and the better you'll make decisions. You should not be second-guessing your gut. If you want a good book on that, check out the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, or Thinking Fast and Slow. Both good books on trusting your gut. And trust it. Do it. If your gut is telling you to do this, trust it. Right? Okay, so top 5 questions from within the Facebook group answered. This one's not necessarily the top 5, but we do get this a lot. So infinite banking, or people being pitched about like financial advisors and Amazon automation. So if people in the Facebook group are pitching you off to the side or saying, hey, DM me, and then you get into there and it's some crazy opportunity about, Amazon automation or infinite banking or becoming a financial advisor or selling travel opportunities or a travel advisor or Sensi or some other multi-level marketing thing, or like some opportunity to become wealthy, building your own business on your own time, building your own network, whatever, that they have to talk to you about privately in Facebook, and they're not willing to tell you exactly what they do, like in detail, in the Facebook group. If they're not willing to give you the keys to the kingdom in the Facebook group, and they have to insist on messaging you off to the side, that's a major red flag. Because they're probably trying to sell you some BS that they know if they post publicly, everybody will tell you is BS. As far as the infinite banking, check out the podcast episode with Will Duffy. You can go to militarytomillionaire.com/Will-Duffy, or you can just go to the website and search Will Duffy, Duffy, or Brandon Jenkins. And those are both great episodes that talk about this in length. But long story short, if you can't overfund it with 6 figures, then you're probably not in a position where it really makes sense. Infinite banking and whole life insurance is a great strategy for capital preservation. It's not a wealth building strategy. So it's touted that way because the people who sell it make more money off commissions through those whole life policies than they do anything else. And they talk about how you can earn interest on your money while it's out, and earn it while it's out investing, and it's also earning interest over here, and you're double tapping and all this other stuff. But most of those accounts are not non-direct recognition. They're direct recognition, which means that they actually don't earn interest on the insurance side while the money's out, and those reps don't even know. And so a lot of the stuff that you're being sold is like, if your policy was structured this way, you could do this. And if it was structured this way, you could do this. And so they tell you like all the different things that you could do if it was structured one way, but then like it can't be structured all of those ways at the same time. And so it's like it could be this or this or this or this, but it can't be all 4, but you're being told it could be all 4, and you just kind of like, it's a big web. So it's hard to tell, and it sounds way too good to be true, because it is most of the time. And just be really careful. Don't liquidate your TSP for it. Don't buy into the fact that 401ks are worse than insurance. Anything in the stock market, index funds, 401k, TSP, tax advantage, whatever, in securities, like in the stock market, long-term will absolutely outpace your insurance account all day, every day. Anyone who says otherwise is selling you insurance, guaranteed. Because anyone who can put $100,000 in both freaking accounts and zoom out 50 years, doesn't matter what day you put it in the stock market, even if you put it in the day before the '08 crash, guarantee the stock market will win. Sorry, it is what it is. All right. Number 4, thrift savings plan. Go check out the YouTube channel or the blog, and you can type in TSP, thrift savings plan. Tons of content, tons of articles there that will talk about the thrift savings plan in general. Long story short, I recommend that people read the book Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. We actually have a podcast episode from him as well. So same thing, you can go to the website and search J.L. Collins, or from militarytomillionaire.com/JL-Collins. And I'll put all this in the show notes. And that book will tell you a lot about different index fund strategies, which is very similar to the TSP, and it'll also tell you about TSP fund recommendations. There's also an article from Rich Carey a good friend of mine and also former podcast guest, that talks about TSP fund allocations, and I'll link to that in the show notes as well. And so those are all good for you to do your own research on what fund you want your money to be in. If you don't want to take the time to do all that homework and all that research and kind of keep up to date on what funds you want your money in as you get older, because you should change it from more risky to less risky as you age, then just stick it in the life cycle fund that best correlates with the age that you plan on starting withdrawing, which luckily now all of those funds start in the life cycle like that, and just leave it there. And I know that you can do better than the life cycle fund if you do it on your own, but if you're not going to take the time to research those funds and understand them enough to change your allocation over time, then it's probably not best for you to be playing with that. Number 3, personal finance in general. There's so much here, and I could dig so much into this, but I mean, the bottom line is don't take on debts you don't need. Don't spend money you don't need right off the bat. When you first join the military, you achieve entry-level financial freedom. Make sure you keep your credit good. Don't take on debts you don't need. Save a couple $100 a month, stick it somewhere. Even if you don't know where to invest it, just stick it somewhere until you find out. Do some learning. If you haven't grabbed my book yet, you can go to Amazon, you can go to the website. I'll link to all that as well, but you can also get the free PDF. And do that learning. Save a little bit of money. Don't go into crazy amounts of debt. When you're ready, use the VA loan and house hack. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I have a free course that's like an hour and a half long. It's actually you can watch the video in one swoop, and it's 45 minutes, or you can watch the individual courses. They're a little bit longer. On each PowerPoint slide is like an hour and a half, and it's actually built out to where you can print or you can take the PowerPoint presentation then and go give it to your unit if you would like to. And so I'll link to this down below as well. But that if you just go to the resource page on the website, you'll see the free personal finance course there. But it'll be in the show notes as well. So I encourage you to go download the free course. It's a personal finance course that I made for service members and vets, and it's way better than what I could give you in 2 minutes on the podcast. The VA loan. That is obviously a very popular topic. In fact, this probably should have been number 1, but I put it as number 2 just because recently number 1 has been a little bit more popular. But VA loan, we get tons of questions. There are so many misconceptions still. Some of the most popular or most common, there's no limit to your first-time use. You can buy a $1 million home with the VA loan. You can use the income, 75% of the gross rents received from the tenants in your property, even if you don't have property management experience. And you might have to hire a property manager for that, but you can. There's no minimum credit score requirement for the VA. Most banks have their own, but the VA doesn't. So if a bank is telling you 620, ask around, because other banks will do 600 or 580. Debt to income, you can go. There's not a minimum requirement for the VA. So I've seen over 70% debt to income ratio approved for a VA loan. Again, every bank might have their own overlays, so you'll have to ask around, but the VA doesn't have their own requirement. The inspections for the VA aren't as bad as you think. The FHA is worse. The appraisal process is not as bad for the VA. In fact, I think it's better. And the process for rebuttaling a VA appraisal is better than the process of rebuttaling an FHA or a conventional. Because with a VA or with a conventional or an FHA, if there's an issue with the appraisal, if you go back to the appraiser, you go directly to the appraiser, and then their ego gets involved, and they're like, oh, you're telling me I'm wrong, and blah, 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 and they're going to dig their heels in. With the VA, you go directly to the VA, the appraiser doesn't even know you went over them, the VA doesn't care. There's no ego involved, so you actually have a chance. And they can actually rush it if you're like, dude, the veteran's going to move in like 2 weeks, they're going to be homeless, oh my God, they can actually... So the VA can pull some strings, it can work in your favor, right? So long story short on this is, if the service member or if you're being told by your agent or your lender that the VA loan is not competitive in your market, then that agent or lender is really just not the right agent or lender for you. And I would be happy to recommend somebody that I think would be better. We've got people in almost every market. So you can go to the website and click recommended agents and lenders, or just hit me up or hit up my team. We've got them everywhere. And I tell you, in every market throughout the craziest times over the last few years, We've been helping service members and vets crush VA loans. We've even seen 14-day closings in like Orange County and San Diego in 2020, 2021. I've got a lender that can guarantee a 17-day close even now in San Diego and Orange County, right? So it's crazy what some of these people can do. And people are like, oh, the VA loan is not competitive. Dude, are you kidding me? 17-day close and they guarantee per diem if they're delayed, like to the seller? Like, that's nuts. I don't know a conventional lender that'll do that. Not really. So the VA loan is super competitive. It's the best primary residence mortgage on the market. If your lender and agent aren't saying that, they don't understand it. And that's okay. That's not on them. They aren't taught that when they get licensed. You have to go out of your way to become an expert in that. The best way to do that is to learn the VA guidelines. And so if you're being told no on something, it's usually a bank overlay. And so just go double check the VA guidelines. But if you got questions, feel free to keep asking them in the group or reach out to me or just click that recommended agents and lenders button on the website and we will get you introduced to someone who knows what they're doing and can help you out. And number 1, side hustles. There's so many options here. And the best thing I can tell you is I've got a blog post with, 45, 50 options for side hustles that I love that you should go check out. We've also got a website or a Facebook group called Military to Agent. So if you're looking to become a real estate agent, which is a great side hustle and full-time gig, we're helping people in the community do that for free. We've got some training and stuff. And then, we're helping them, like, teaching for free. The licensing and stuff is not free, but we don't run that. But feel free to go join that Military to Agent Facebook group, and then, or ask about it. We'll point you in the right direction. But there's a ton of side hustle options. And so if you want, you can go to the website and just type in how to earn extra money or side hustles, and you'll pop that article up. We'll link it to the show notes as well. I could just name a ton off, but ultimately, it depends on what you enjoy, right? You could start a business, you could buy a business, you could be investing, you could be driving for Uber Eats or, Instaspark or whatever it's called, doing groceries. You could be taking pictures for real estate agents. You could be doing freelance stuff. You could be blogging. You could be YouTubing. You could be wholesaling. You could, mobile notary is a good one. There are a ton of options here. Start a cleaning business. Be a cleaner for like Airbnbs. Be a property manager for Airbnbs. Being Airbnb arbitrage. There's just so many options. So just don't limit yourself. So, all right, that was the 5 most common questions. I think that about wraps us up for episode 200. I didn't want to keep you guys here all day, so I hope you got something out of this overview of the community and things that are going on. And I did want to just go ahead and plug a special offer. And I actually hadn't even thought about talked about with my team, what this should be. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. And they're going to kill me. Okay. All right, here's what's happening. If you use the code episode 200, so it's just going to be one word, all caps, episode 200, so EPISODE 200, the numbers, episode 200, and I'll leave the code down below in the show notes. If you sign up for the War Room, which the link will be down there as well, if you sign up for the War Room and you use the code episode 200 at checkout, it'll take $200 off the annual membership for year 1, and it'll take 50% off your monthly membership for the first 2 months for joining. And that'll only be for this episode, and it'll only be good. This is going to come out on Friday, which is the 17th. So St. Patty's Day. Woo, woo. And this is also my birthday week. I'm recording this the day after my birthday. So 17th. So it'll be good until the 31st of March. So there you go. So if by midnight on the 31st of March you use episode 200, you'll get 200 off the annual membership and 75 or 50% off the monthly membership for 2 months. I've never discounted it that much, but episode 200 is big to me. So that's the special offer for making it all the way through this. As always, if you haven't done so far, grab the No BS Guide to Military Life, the Military Millionaire Planner. You can get hard copies both on Amazon or on the website at formilitarymillionaire.com/books. Or you can get the free PDF, and for $17 you can get the digital download of this if you like the fillable copies. And that's all I got, folks. Please leave a review, subscribe on your favorite platform, and share if you got something valuable out of this or the community or the podcast. And then comment what you'd like to see over the next year that would make the podcast more valuable to you, what kind of guests you want, anything and everything, because we are going to crank it up to 11 in 2023, 4, 5, 10, whatever. And have a great day. Dave out.